Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Blacksmith's Furnace with your boy Pete.
Man, that Mo be out here. Yeah,
Heavy
come on.
hitters, heavy hitters in rotation.
Hey, another one. For another one.
Again, I'm not gonna throw Robert under the bus. I think he's got a good
Yeah,
reason to not be here this time
legitimate
round.
reasons this time, man.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a rare occasion, but when
It
he's
is,
got
it is the
legitimate reasons,
exception.
we got to
It
give
is
it
the
to him.
exception. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's still a pagan, but yeah, no, it's all good.
Mm,
It's all good this time. No, yeah, welcome back. So we jump straight into it. Heavy hitters, we don't waste our
yeah,
time.
sorry, not sorry, boy.
Sorry, not sorry. I've got a question for you.
Okay.
One for one?
Yeah. One for one.
Yeah, cool. All right, I've got a
Yeah.
question. Have you heard of Centaur chess?
No, I've heard of centaurs, but not centaur chess.
So centaur, half man, half horse,
Horse.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Centaur chess is this idea of man and AI joining forces playing chess. Or not even this idea, it's a type of chess. So, they came up
Mm,
with AI and AI was beating like grandmasters and stuff. And then they figured, oh actually, if a grandmaster teams up with an AI, it ends up being significantly, better just because humans and our intuition and our,
mm,
whatever it is makes for slightly less predictable or whatever. It makes it a better thing. The combination
mm,
of AI and a grandmaster makes for a better chess player in general. So Centaur chess, I've been thinking about it because I've been thinking of AI
mm-hmm.
and this idea of AI not necessarily replacing people. So
Mm,
I heard a quote that I think puts it a better way. Someone was like, "You don't need to be worried about AI replacing your job. You need to be worried about your job being replaced by someone who uses AI." And there's this idea of it just becomes a tool, and those
mm-hmm.
that are open, those that learn, those that integrate better with it will end up being able to do more, as opposed
Yeah.
to just sort of shying away from it. And so I was thinking of that and thinking of sort of your preachers and your stuff. And I think last time we spoke about this, we said, oh, you wouldn't want to, it wouldn't be, it quite literally wouldn't have the anointing or the
Mm,
spirit or whatever for you to just say, Chat GPT, write me a sermon about tithing, and
yeah.
then come and drop
Yeah.
it. However, I was thinking, with this sort of centaur chess concept, what do you think about, for instance, something AI is good at is analyzing tons of information, sort of
Mm-hmm.
extracting the detail, extracting the
Yeah.
usefulness. So, what would you think of maybe a preacher using AI to say, show me all the um, biblical research, archaeological, scholarly research on this particular topic?
Mm,
Show it to me in 10 bullet points, make it as succinct as possible, and then using that to build a sermon. So he's using AI for what AI
yeah.
is good for and
Hmm.
coming through with his sort of thingy, with his anointing or individuality at the very least. What do you
Yeah.
think of that as an appropriate use for AI in the kingdom?
Yeah. So that has um immense potential. Um that has immense potential. Um but it depends on the degree to which you rely on it, I think. Um I think that as with anything, knowledge puffs up but love edifies. If you It can very easily become very heady with all of that research information available. So it very much depends on your skill set in deciphering that and presenting it in a way that still resonates, which will be a craft in and of itself. Like preaching is a craft. So that would be my caveat. But in line of that, I think it's arguably it's a more powerful Google search.
Yeah, no,
If you
effectively.
use that way,
Yeah,
effect is a more
yeah,
powerful Google search.
yeah.
and it'll be able to distill the information and bring it back. You won't have to crawl through tons of websites and articles. It's going to present all of it there for you. So yeah, in that sense, it has great potential. It will still, hopefully it won't induce laziness in diligent studying on the pastor's part, and it won't incite this sense of quoting information without. There's a difference between reading a sheet and like communicating conviction whilst preaching. And so I wouldn't want it to replace conviction. I wouldn't want information to replace conviction. But if the pastor or whoever's preaching kind of approaches it from a genuine perspective, it's like, yo, like, I feel like God wants you to speak on baptism, but I don't fully understand the concept of baptism outside of where it's presented in in the New Testament. I don't know if there was like an Old Testament equivalent, or if there was stuff kind of in place, or kind of boom, okay, what's all the research on baptism? So I can kind of learn that, kind of get a fuller understanding of that, and kind of preach from that perspective. Then yeah, like more than happy for that to happen. But if it's from a perspective of, oh yeah, and I don't think anyone's going to do this intentionally, but let me show them that I know the Bible.
Yeah.
I hopefully no one would do that intentionally. But along those lines, I'll be like, okay, yeah, let's not, let's be mindful of that. As soon as you mentioned it, it reminded me of exoskeletons, which essentially is an exoskeleton. It's like an outer robotic arm, leg, whatever, that is aiding you. It's not doing the work for you. Even though there are some that can hold the load and blah, 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 without your input, but you are directing it. So it's like, it's a tool.
Yeah.
That is still under your command. And from what I have seen of exoskeletons, they have been very useful. So if someone's busted their knee, they can have an exoskeleton around the knee joint, so they can still walk by themselves with an exoskeleton without needing crutches and or wheelchairs and stuff. And arguably in them mobilizing the joint, it's exercising and it's keeping the joint kind of moving and stuff, and the muscles still in play. So yeah, I kind of almost saw it as an exoskeleton for your brain in that way. Now, if you don't try to go on Call of Duty vibes, where you're hopping from roof to roof trying to do whatever, then yeah. So yeah, I do see the value in it. I do see the benefit in it, and yeah, I'd be down to even explore that myself. Oh, cool! Like ChatGPT, blah blah blah, this and that. Okay, let's work with that. But yeah, I would still need to verify what ChatGPT brings, because I know that sometimes it's been making up facts and making up stuff.
Yeah. It has right now no real relationship with the truth or with verifiable facts. And I think excuse me, I'm happy with your response, by the way.
That's sweet.
But just to drop a random side note, a lawyer in America, I think, is being penalized because, as part of the research for his case or whatever, or as I think part of the plea that he put forward, he apparently, or one of his underlings, had ChatGPT write the whole thing and then submit it. And the case guys going through was like, oh, we can't find this case that you referenced. Does it actually exist? And the guy's like, well, I asked the AI if it exists and it says yes. So turns out it just made it up, and somehow they didn't proofread or check it.
Yeah. So,
don't do all that before you start quoting Jude chapter 27 and start with what's going on there.
Matthew 29. First two. But like Gems had asked ChatGPT to find her journals for one of her articles, that for one of her essays she was writing, and ChatGPT was coming back with URLs that are not in existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's just like, yo, like, I thought I had this covered, but now I just need to do my own research. So yeah, it very much depends on what you want it for. But I think Google have their own version that
Yeah, I
is a
think
lot
it's
more accurate.
Bard or something. Well, there's a whole
Yeah,
bunch. I mean, ChatGPT is just the public facing,
yeah,
open
yeah,
AI thing. There's a whole bunch of AI tools now, like that are, even Bing have one, that
yeah.
they've integrated so deeply. It's, I mean, aside from creating stuff, what right now the technology is good at is looking at available information
Mm,
and distilling it. So give it a transcription of a meeting and it will summarize and give you action points. And from what I'm seeing, it will be very good at doing that because it's good
mm.
at sort of distilling that from the information it's given. But try use it for anything else or anything significant, and you're asking for trouble, really. But yeah, I'm satisfied.
Dope. Um, so my question, and I don't know if I'll be satisfied with any answer
Hmm.
because I'm getting to the point where I don't even know if I care anymore. Um, but it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts. Um, do you believe that as Christians we can ever reach a state of sinless perfection?
Oh gosh. It's almost it's almost what's the point of the question?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm not asking you to answer it, but it's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in trying to answer it in my head, it's almost like what's the point? Because
Yeah. To what end?
it's
Like,
yeah,
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 it's I don't know, and I don't know. I I I can't sort of biblically say yes, we can reach this
mm,
point outside of when we see him and we're made like him.
yeah, yeah,
So outside of that, what is sinless perfection
mm,
if we are still not like him, if that makes
yeah,
sense? That
yeah.
last, I can't remember the verse, but it says we will see him, and when we see him we'll be made like him because we see him as he
Yes,
is. And so it's
yes,
like that is sort of the end point.
yeah,
um and then I guess it gets broken down into, well, can we get to a point where we are no longer sinning on earth? um and again, I don't, again, it's almost like to what end? The point isn't sin per se, the point is Christ
mm,
and his sacrifice, meaning that your sin is taken care of.
yeah,
And then I think it's more so, we work out our salvation with fear and trembling, but we're working it out through God who is working in us, both to will and to
mm,
do these things. And it's like, it's, I think it ends up being and I get this sense from the way you even asked the question that it's not your sort of angle, but it ends up being, how far can I go, or what's the point of aiming for, and
yeah,
that's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that ends up being the wrong question to ask,
yeah, yeah,
almost.
yeah.
And so it's yeah, and unsurprisingly not a useful answer, really.
And that's
um
that's why I gave the caveat
yeah,
initially that I
yeah,
don't think I'll be satisfied with any
yeah,
answer,
yeah,
and because I don't think I actually care.
yeah,
Because exactly as you said, this answer almost presents for the wrong person.
yeah,
It presents an escape clause,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then for the other
or
type of the wrong person,
an
it
unhealthy,
presents
yeah,
this unhealthy,
yeah,
this thing to strive for,
yeah,
which is like, I cannot sin, like
yeah,
I need to do this, and I'm just like, both are equally problematic.
yeah, yeah. And so I
Um,
guess my what I would advise is, what's most important is daily pursuing death to self,
Yeah.
and daily pursuing deeper, more clear, more evidence intimacy with Christ.
Yeah.
And if that's the goal, then it doesn't matter if you reach. There's no pinnacle, because
Yeah.
if he is infinite, we can get infinitely more intimate with him
Yeah.
whilst we're
Yeah.
here, and there's no
Yeah.
need for a pinnacle. There's no
Yeah.
need for a top level, and so that would be my
I like that.
recommendation.
Also, I had a conversation with someone. That's why I asked, because I had a conversation with someone that I was like, I don't believe we can get to a stage of sinless perfection. But I realized that I almost have theologically, I have checkpoints or milestones. And then when I go past that milestone, I don't reevaluate that milestone until I get into a conversation that brings that milestone back up. And I'm like, actually, do I still believe in this? And because I was like, we will, exactly as you said, we will be like him when we see him, and we won't until we see him. We haven't seen him, so we won't be like him. But the person was arguing, Paul was saying that he wanted to present the church as an unblemished bride unto him,
But
which is
that's
like
not by his doing. That
yes, not by his
unblemished is
doing,
by the
yes,
blood.
by the blood, yes, and almost this sense of being sinless and being growing in holiness and growing in sanctification to the point of being one with God, where you are free of the. And I'm just like, I don't think we'll get there, but I don't think that's a reason not to strive for it, because I believe the Holy Spirit compels us on a daily basis to press forward to the upward calling. And so it's almost like this catch-22, where it's faith. We are, faith is the evidence of things hoped for. It's like the conviction of things not seen. And it's just like, yo, we're pressed into this thing, knowing that Abraham died in faith, having not received that which was he had faith for. And so it is faith. But I was just like, I don't care. So long as you're being convicted and compelled to walk in a certain direction, that's more important than if you're going to be sinless and spotless. So yeah, I'm happy with that answer, even though we didn't really give an answer.
We just decided that the question is not useful.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, moving swiftly on is and I appreciate we're both a bit tired, so maybe this will be a quick one. Even though the question is fairly deep, but William Wilberforce, right?
Say that again.
William Wilberforce.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the pioneering sort of advocates for the abolition of slavery.
Yes.
Englishman. Slavery being at the time a widely accepted evil.
Yeah.
And William Wilberforce being very much, if I'm correct, convicted by his faith to work towards abolition of it. Now, if William Wilberforce was here today, would he be working with similar fervor towards sort of policy change that removes modern day widely accepted
I like the way you swallowed
evils,
before you said that. Yeah.
Like a homosexuality, like a transgenderism, LGBTQ, LSNNOP, all of that stuff. Would he be acting with similar fervor to have those things abolished? And if so, should we be?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Interesting.
I don't think so. And primarily the reason I don't believe so is the social political landscape is totally different. The parliament in and of itself was established by Christians. I
Okay, I
believe.
didn't know that. Yeah.
I believe. I believe. Um, when I think when the Church of England started,
Isn't Parliament okay? Okay, no, 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 because the whole idea of like senates and republics and stuff, that's ancient Greek, ancient Roman sort of stuff, isn't it? But
yeah,
you're talking
what I
about
heard,
the
yeah,
English
what I
Parliament,
heard
so
was
okay,
the English Parliament.
yeah,
What I
yeah,
heard,
yeah.
and I could be mistaken, but what I heard, what I read, I believe, is um, the Puritans
Hmm.
argued for a separation of church and state. And I believe it may have been around Church of England times when um, the
Henry,
king started Church of England,
yeah.
and they were like, "Yo, let's separate church and state." Because as the king, as the ruling monarch, you've got this. It's like you've got control over both church and state. So let's you can be head of the church. We'll have the state kind of run. Um, you'll still have a public face and stuff. I could be mistaken by this, um, but Parliament was still very much run by Christians.
Okay.
Um, and so even like the rules around Sabbath was still enforced because there was
Hmm.
Christians in Parliament. You weren't allowed to overindulge at Christmas. Like you weren't allowed to even play football on a Sunday. Like no work. Like it was a strict regiment around the Puritans and the establishment of Parliament.
Hmm.
And so the entire United Kingdom was under explicitly Christian rule. And I believe it's much easier to impose Christian convictions on a nation that is explicitly under Christian rule. So, for example, in Iraq, where it may be more of a Muslim orientated rule,
Hmm.
it's much easier to legislate like wearing of wrapping off your heads and stuff. And I know that I think in Iran, women were losing their lives because they had taken their headscarf off.
Hmm.
It's much easier to legislate these things if the entire like government system adheres to something. That's not the case now.
Hmm.
So like socially, politically, that's not the case at the moment. And so I think it will be very difficult to stand on a religious basin to then say, okay, let's abolish this. Um,
That somewhat begs the question though, because I agree that I didn't know about the Parliament, but
mm,
if that's accurate, then it was a matter of, you know, right place, right time. You know, you're in a place where the Parliament is mostly Christian, so it'll be
mm,
easier to legislate and get that through. But I guess the
yeah.
question was, I mean, the whole idea of like resistance and fighting
Mm,
an enemy, it's built into the Christian thing. So the
yeah.
question is, regardless of the ease of doing it,
Okay.
would he be working towards it?
Yeah.
You know, it might not. He might not have been able to. He might not be able to abolish it because, as you said,
Mm,
now you know. I mean,
yeah.
just look at just look at just
Yeah.
look at your government. You know,
Bro.
so he might not be able to get it through. But would he be working as fervently to that effect, to that end, for these
Mm.
topics?
There can be an argument around um within the church, most definitely.
Mm.
Because right now the church scene is very fluid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very fluid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to go there because I think we both agree on what the church should be saying, or at least we both can agree on what the Bible presents, all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
extra biblical interpretations that suit people is nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm saying legitimate. I'm saying just exclusively on the political scene.
On the
Would he be
political
working
scene,
on that
okay.
to that end?
I don't know, and that's the reason I'm like I'm like huffing is I almost feel like if our stance is to be taken seriously as a community, we need to have a united front, because it is like homosexuality and gender fluidity and stuff is seen, from my observation, is seen as more taboo within the Islamic culture than it is within Christianity, because there is more of a united front around it. There's more of a common understanding and a common approach to it. But within Christianity is very fluid. And so my argument would almost be, nah, get your house in order. And as you get your house in order, that will then be a statement against what the state is doing.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be my argument. And so based off of that argument, I don't know if there would be such a, and this is my bias in that, would there
Maybe
be
a
such
change
a,
in focus on, yo, you guys preaching this nonsense like Mike Todd. What you saying? Trans is in the
you know,
name.
like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's my focus. But again, the argument could be made that even when Wilberforce was doing his thing, there were still churches preaching white Jesus, white God, like black people are subhuman, like that was seen as doctrine. And so arguably the church didn't have their house in order. And he was still fighting against it from a social political perspective. And so yeah, so that's a very interesting one. More than likely he would be trying to fight it politically, and reflecting on just how lucrative slavery was. I am sure that there would be a lot of backlash for him to have fought that at that time. Simply by virtue of it is very lucrative. Like, it's people's livelihoods literally are running on the back of slaves. And even recognizing that preachers had slaves. Like, yo, the Ku Klux Klan had a Sunday school. And they called them the Ku Klux Kiddies. They legit had a Sunday school. So this indoctrination was happening from young. Obviously, there's a disparity between America and England, but most of the financing, from my understanding, was coming from England. America and the colonies was just a vehicle, and the English were getting rich off of it. And more time, the British were going to America, and so they're almost like expats, and then they kind of worked. So yeah, I am sure that he faced a lot of backlash, but his convictions still stood. So yeah, I would have, with that in mind, I perceive that he still would do. I perceive that he still would do. I don't know how he'll manage to go about it, by virtue of the political landscape being so different.
Yeah. No, I think. I mean, yeah. I think. I don't think he'd be able to do. I don't think he'd be able to achieve it today. Even if he were to work towards it, as you said, I think that the social, political environment is so different. This is no longer a Christian that even vaguely identifies in any meaningful way as
Yeah.
Christian. You know, we had the coronation and all that jazz, but you know, I don't know how much. I mean, actually, I don't want to speak against the ministers that actually did anything, but I don't know how much the king is going to represent faith, and I don't know
Yeah.
how much the
Yeah.
prime minister believed any of the words that he was reading, and all of that. So I don't know if he'd be able to achieve it. I think my struggle is, and this sort of comes into the more personal, my personal stakes in this is
Mm.
when it comes to sort of opposing some of these things, and even taking it as far as, you know, some of the things that if you have an eschatological opinion, you might see as threatening. So, you know,
Mm.
stuff like digitizing money and
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
This
this
paperless society and
you
stuff.
know, yeah, this sort of coalition of power among
Mm.
certain people, and all of these things setting the stage for what could be interpreted as, you know, the abomination, not the abomination, the antichrist, and all of those
Yeah.
things, you know. And I see Christians, you know, who are passionate about opposing that,
Mm.
and I find myself going, well, these things are prophesied
Mm.
and are going to come. Like, is it? I find myself personally struggling, and I sort of asking myself the question: is it worth the time to oppose what is clearly the direction the world is going, or
Yeah.
should I focus on how can I help advance the kingdom? How can I help preach the gospel and
Yeah.
make known? Because as far as I'm concerned, that is what will accelerate then the end. You
Yeah.
know, once the
Yeah.
gospel reaches all
Yeah.
the corners of the earth. And so, should I invest any energy into opposing some of these political things when I know the entire system is corrupt and evil and depraved? And Ade challenged me on that with Wilberforce, because if I was in his time, it'll probably be the same thing. It'll probably be, well, slavery as is being done now, the degrading human life,
Mm.
and you know,
Hmm.
all of that is evil, but it's a
Yeah.
lucrative and widely accepted evil. So should I fight against that, or should I focus on? And you know, if I was there, well, if I was there and someone had tried to make me their slave, you know, then I'd be in a different position. I'd be
Fam.
wanting my liberation more so than, you know, wanting for
Yeah. I
evil to
I
stop
do
in the
I
world.
do
So
feel like, so some people feel, from my understanding, some people feel like in actively opposing these things, they are progressing the kingdom. They are progressing kingdom values, kingdom morals, kingdom teachings by like saying no, don't get the COVID vaccination, don't do this, don't do that. So it's very much just like, okay, I believe you're kind of talking through your neck, but I love you enough to say, all right, cool, let's leave, let's just keep building and stuff. I do see a massive difference. I do know that some within the LGBTQ community have almost tried to draw this
yeah,
wild link between
slavery.
slavery and thing, and I'm just like, no, it is not the
They are
same,
oppressed.
bro. It
You
is
guys
not
are a
the same,
protected class.
bro. You're not being whipped. You're not being lynched. You're
You
not.
are
And
protected. You are literally protected.
I know that in some cultures, like if they found out you're gay and stuff, like it's peak for you. Um,
In
but
the
the reality,
Premier, so in
yeah.
the Premier Christian magazine, I just saw, I think Uganda have put an anti-gay law in, and the Premier Christian was just reporting that the Ugandan church are very happy with it.
um, it's in because it's like, by virtue of the skin you're born into, you can't hide your skin, bro. You can't hide the melanin. Like the hue is not like glow in the dark. Like it's always there. Arguably, you can. unless my man sees you dressed like brother, you're dressed in female's clothing, or you're walking with a next man, or gal, you're doing X, like that's just you. Um, People are none the wiser until they become aware of your sexual activity or your um gender associations and stuff. You're not being oppressed by virtue of the skin you're in. You haven't been labeled from birth as being subhuman. Um, it is a sexual orientation or a biological wiring that you are acting upon. And I'm not necessarily, yeah, it's like, and I just don't see that link. And I feel
Yeah.
like they're reaching. I just don't see it. Of like, and also I feel like it is um it is belittling to compare one suffering to another,
Yeah.
even to compare one person's suffering to another person's suffering, even if they went through the exact same thing, because it would have impacted them both uniquely. And so this person's suffering is just as valid as that person's suffering without being compared. And so we shouldn't compare LGBTQ suffering to slavery. I don't think it's on the same level. And it's not to diminish one person's suffering over another, but I'm just like, bro, slavery was something totally different. Um, and in like, bro, if I was born gay, like unless I was doing gay stuff, you're not gonna know. It's as simple as that. I'm back in Wilberforce days. As soon as man's born black, it's peak.
Oh, I
So
guess the question is more so from the Christian's perspective,
yeah,
not to draw that line, because I've heard that line before. It's like, oh yeah, we're being oppressed the same way that slaves were oppressed. It's like, no, no, you're not, no.
nah.
But it's
And I
more
think
so,
the line that I wanted to draw, the line that I wanted to draw with that is um blacks were seen as subhuman. Blacks were seen as commodities, people not worth being referred to as people. Like we were essentially items to be used and abused and just as pleased. Um, and there was a systematic and intentional abuse of human bodies, minds, spirits, souls throughout the entire slavery history. That is worth opposing every given moment. Equally, suffering within its different facets is also worth opposing. And so I believe that there don't that, no, I believe there is room for arguing for fair treatment of everyone, irrespective of your sexuality. Fair treatment of everyone, irrespective of your gender identification. By virtue of you being human, you should be treated as human. You should be treated in a way that is just, that is fair, that doesn't subjugate you to suffering. But in the same way that we would frown on a brother marrying his sister, but we ain't gonna punch you up over it. You know, like we're not gonna beat you up over it, but we'll be like, nah, that can't run. In the same ways, there can be a line drawn between I'm still gonna see you as human, even if I disagree with your lifestyle. That clear distinction. And that's almost what I advocate in that. Yo, like I'm still gonna spud you like homosexuality is not infectious. Like I'm still going to like par with you, even if I disagree with what you're doing. But I still value you. You are still human. You are still made in the image of God. Even if that is being corrupted, and that corruption doesn't have to be homosexuality, it could be murder, it could be whatever. but you are still made in the image of God, worthy to be loved and respected, worthy to be seen as human and treated as human, knowing that God's redemption reaches into every sin. So I would almost make that distinction of like, yo, let's not oppress the LGBTQ community. Let's emphasize our beliefs in like, yo, like, boom, marriages between man and woman, like this and that, biological man, biological woman. We believe that there are only two genders and they are assigned at birth. Now you may be you've got both parts, but like if you got both parts but you ain't got a womb, your body's made the decision for you. So it's like biologically there are decisions being made, and bro, I wish I was 6 foot. I'm not going to identify as a 6 foot man because I'm not. Man's 5'5". I can't identify as 6 foot. Or I wish I was a samurai. I can train to be a samurai, but I can't identify as a 13th century samurai. It don't work.
In today's climate, you can,
bro. And so for me, that there is these caveats in let's treat humans as humans, even as we almost present what we believe to be like how the earth was, almost how society was formed, was made to be, was the intention behind it. If homosexuality and like gender fluidity and everything was how things were meant to be, the population would be in a very bad state.
So can I summarize what you said as such? Evil that hurts others, or evil that hurts a person other than the person committing the evil should be publicly, politically opposed, or can be objectively opposed. However, evil that hurts only the individual doesn't require sort of political opposition.
That's an interesting way of
point of view.
That's an interesting way of phrasing it.
Because that's the difference, right?
Slavery,
we can all objectively look like and say you are degrading another human being.
Yes.
This is evil. I can agree it's evil based on knowing that person is made in the image of God. You can agree that's evil based on, if it was you, you'd be painful even if you're an atheist. However, with something like sexual orientation or transgenderism, I can still agree that this is evil because this is not how God intended it. But then I still have to respect your God-given rights to do what God has not intended.
Essentially, your free will, because even God,
where it's not hurting someone else, it's just hurting you.
God respects your free will. You've got free will to go to hell if you want to. And arguably, yes, I did read in an article one time that sin has 3 implications. It has an implication against the person who commits it. It has an implication against the person who was committed against, and it also has an implication on the community in which they live in. And so as you said that, I was like, then almost there are different degrees. And I guess even I think it was in John where it's like sins that lead to death. There are some sins that are inconspicuous that don't lead to death. I don't say pray about these, but the sins that lead to death, pray about these. Paraphrasing, it may not be exactly those words. And so even there was a distinction there, So yes, because of free will, there is a reality of like, don't put your hand into fire, but if you want to,
and get some kebab sticks.
Cool. Hell is hot, boy. That's an interesting one. And I do. It would be good to like chop it up with Ade as well, because I do know that Ade is
Uh,
tapping into the Wilberforce sort of spirit.
yeah. So that is
So
the one
was
that
Zil.
challenged me on it, and I was like, oh, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's tapping into the Wilberforce Zil, and I am almost like I'm almost arguing wisdom in application,
Yeah.
um, taking a census almost, or like just observing the times that we're in at the moment and recognizing that the times are totally different. So,
Yeah.
what would standing for God's truth look like now, in contrast to when was Wilberforce? 1800s. He was, yeah, he lived between the 1700 and 1800s. But yeah, it's a totally different time.
Cool. Cool. Well, I thought that was it's a heavy one, as you said. It'll be nice
Yeah,
to speak with someone who is on that vibe, um,
yeah.
and break and dig into that a bit more. But yeah, yeah. Let's move to hookups before I fall asleep.
Sweet. Yeah.
My hookup. Well, actually, before hookups, shout out. Last episode, OD joined us, Nathaniel,
Yes, sir.
and this episode, well, today we're recording on Thursday. It's his birthday, so
Oh,
happy
sick.
birthday, OD.
Happy
Um,
birthday, broski.
yeah, man, praying for more blessings, and yeah,
Hey.
may you have a great day. We hope you've had a great day because it's the evening. So yeah, but yeah, my hookup is an announcement. Uh, Thousand Year Blood War is coming back. I think at the end of this month, Core 2 will be out. And it looks like they're bringing in some extra material that wasn't necessarily in the manga. Um, so I'm just going to drop this because it's in the trailer. And also, there's a hint to
Mm,
Shinji's Bankai, which we haven't seen yet.
come on. I haven't
And it's
seen
only
the
been
trailer. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's only been revealed in like the light novels, the extracurricular stuff that Kubo did after Bleach ended, and it's a sick Bankai. So it looks like it's looking real close. Like they're gonna bring some stuff in from some of the light novels that flesh out the world a little bit more and add
Sick.
to what was a very rushed manga. So, Thousand Year Blood War,
Well,
Bleach.
they're sitting on that Disney Plus money. So yeah, them man are putting out all the stops.
If you've got Disney Plus, go check it out. I think at the end of the month, the second season starts, and the first season has been dope thus far. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah,
animation
go
has been
check it out.
sick. The whole thing
Yeah,
has been sick. That's a sick plug. Definitely
and
gonna, yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say a lot of like the OG animators are coming back as well, or have come back
Sick.
for this season. So, yeah, yeah.
Sick. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. Do you know what it is as well? Yeah. I've got like a whole bunch of graphic novels that I'm reading, but I know that I'm almost finished the batch that I've got. The Afro Samurai is waiting for me. Um, so yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. As soon as I finish this, there's gonna be something else waiting for me. Sick. Um, my hookup is a lot more lighthearted. A lot more lighthearted. I'm gonna send a name in the chat. Actually, no, I'll send you the link in the group.
Yeah.
It's called it's a channel on YouTube called Rockstar, but it's spelt very different. It's got X's in it. Yeah, Rockstar, and this guy, he's a comedian voiceover artist, comedy voiceover artist, but his voiceovers is only over animals.
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, I think I sent one to the good guys, good fellas group. It's hilarious. He's just voicing over animals. Um, and just like voicing their reactions and their thoughts as their owners, or even like his voice in catfights and stuff. And it's just hilarious. Yeah,
Oh, the
so
way you
yeah,
said, yeah.
that's my hookup. That's my hookup. YouTube channel called Rockstar.
Cool. All right, guys, go check that out. Yeah, shout out to Robert.
Yes,
May it all go well. What are you doing?
yes.
But shout out to you guys, listeners. Thank you for rocking
Facts.
with us. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you
It's been like 3-4 years now, but not even longer than that.
longer than that, man. It's been longer than my marriage.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you guys for listening. Hopefully, it's give you guys something to think about, and it'll be nice to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah.
On all the topics, on Mo's initial unanswerable question to
The
AI to Wilberforce, and would he be protesting stuff now?
Would you guys like to hear AI sermons? AI verified sermons. This sermon is sorted by ChatGPT.
But yeah, no, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, iTunes, Pocket Casts. No, not iTunes. Google Podcasts. Everywhere. SoundCloud is where we
Apple
are
is
based.
so good. He brought them in twice. Apple, iTunes, like that.
SoundCloud.com.
Apple Music.
The Blacksmith Furnace without an apostrophe. We are on Instagram, but I don't think anyone checks it. We are also no, we're not on anything else. We've got an email.
We're on Twitter, but I
Twitter?
don't think anyone. Yeah, you are on Twitter.
I don't even have a Twitter anymore,
bro.
So, yeah, so probably don't reach out to us.
If you tweet us, you're not gonna get much of a response.
But we are on YouTube, the Ordinary Amazing channel. You can find us on there and on SoundCloud. Any comments and stuff, if you want to engage, we'll be happy to meet you in the comment section there.
Facts.
But until next time, I believe the round is over. The heavy hitters are heading back to the dressing room.
Hey, heading back to the gym, putting them reps
right back in.
Come on.
Peace out, guys.
Love, people.